didn't mean to stay that late at Cowpens. I'd ridden out in the afternoon, chased the sun through the pines, pulled it into the battlefield, just enough light left to walk the loop. January air cuts different up there. Even when it ain't that cold, it feels thin, like the place is still remembering one bad winter morning. By the time I finished reading the signs and staring out across that open field where it all went down in 1781, the park had gone quiet. Folks' cars were gone, just my bike sitting there under the pines, ticking as it cooled. I should have cranked up and headed home. Instead, I did what I always do. Went back down the trail, just to look one more time. That's when things changed. If you've never been, Cowpens is just a big, gentle pasture framed by trees. It don't look like much, just rough grass, a slight slope, and a few markers where they tell you where they all stood. But if you stand at the edge and squint a little, you can almost see Daniel Morgan's line drawn out across that ground. Militia up front, Continentals behind, more militia and cavalry tucked where the British couldn't quite see them. Men from the Carolinas, Virginia, Georgia, farmers and hunters side by side with regular soldiers. Most of them younger than you'd like to think. I was standing where the militia line would have been. I just read the marker about how they were told to hold their fire, 2 good shots, then fall back. Simple order, hard job. The sun was gone now, just a band of dirty orange behind the trees. Shadows were long, the wind dropped off to nothing. The field got quiet in a way that didn't feel natural. Not even in the country quiet, empty quiet, like the sound had gone someplace else. I took a breath, caught something that didn't belong. You know what wet grass smells like? And cold dirt, pine sap? Well, those are normal. But this had a sharp edge to it, bitter, dry, like something burned a long time ago and decided it still had business here. If you've ever been to a reenactment and stood too close to the line when they fired, you know that smell of black powder. It crawls in your nose and just hangs there. That's what comes sliding across that field. No smoke, no noise, just the smell. Thin, but clear as day. I told myself it was somebody target shooting off in the distance. Folks do that around here, right? Then I remembered there hadn't been a single gunshot all afternoon. Not one. The air had been clean as a church kitchen the whole time. Checked my watch, even though that doesn't fix anything. It was full dark now. Park should have been closing. I was alone on a Revolutionary War battlefield, standing where scared men once waited on British steel, and the wind smelled like it was 1781 again. Gravel crunched behind me, just once, like a boot heel shifted. I turned around slow, nothing there but the path, the faint outline of my bike up by the trees. Somebody out there, I called, because that's what you do, even when you know better. No answer, no ranger's truck, no headlights, just a little sigh of pine needles brushing against one another. I told myself it was my own steps I'd heard, sound bouncing around. Then it came again, not from behind me this time, from the field. It sounded like a row of men shifting their weight at the same time. A soft thud, not loud, not wide, like 100 boots or so pressing down on the same patch of ground. But the grass didn't move. The air stayed still, but my neck went tight, and every hair I've got tried to stand up and leave my body. You don't forget what mass feels like. People carry weight with them, even when you can't see it. There, at the edge of that field, it felt like the front line had just stepped up into place. I don't know why I opened my mouth. "Hold your fire," I said, barely louder than a whisper. It just slipped out. A man alone, talking to nobody, quoting orders from a battle 200 years gone. The air changed. I didn't hear muskets crack. I didn't see light. What I heard was the echo of it, like the world flinched. Pressure pushed into my ears the way it does when something loud goes off far away. My chest tightened like a drum head. For 1 second, that whole field was full of noise that wasn't exactly sound, but the memory of it. I could picture it without wanting to. Thick smoke hanging low, men's hands shaking as they rammed home powder and ball, officers shouting numbers, the British line coming up steady, bright coats messy with frost and sweat. Men who'd never seen a battlefield, and men who'd seen too many, all trying not to think about how the next breath might be their last. The feeling passed, but it left something behind. Got lightheaded, like I'd been standing up too fast. My boots felt heavier, like the ground didn't want to let go. There's a story folks like to tell that the militia ran at Cowpens. That's crazy talk. Morgan told them to fire, fall back, and draw the British in. Some did just that. Some ran farther than they meant to. Fear does that to a man, especially one with no uniform and no real promise of glory. I was thinking about those boys when I felt somebody run right past me. I didn't see a thing, but the air rushed like a man sprinting by, close enough that my sleeve fluttered. The ground under my boots trembled with the rhythm of feet pounding away from the line. For a heartbeat, I saw it in my mind like it was lit up. A kid my son's age, breath tearing in and out of his lungs, hat half off his head, running like the devil himself was riding on his shoulders. Then just something changed again. Same spot, same path, but now I felt another presence push past me in the opposite direction, heading back toward the fight. Same weight, same body, different choice. It shoved through me like a cold draft in an old church, and for a half second, my legs tingled like I'd stepped in ice water. That's when I realized this place is full of men who had to decide in one breath whether they were cowards or heroes. And some of them still seemed to be running that choice over in their minds. I moved closer to the center of the field, right about where the British cavalry would have come roaring in. The night had gone thick and starless, the kind you only get out in the country when the clouds cover everything. My boots hit a patch of ground that felt harder than the rest, like old packed earth, for no good reason at all. I thought about Bannister Tarleton, that British officer folks could still spit his name like it tastes bad. Green dragoon, hard riding, ruthless. He came into Cowpens sure he was about to stomp a raggedy little rebel force into the ground. Instead, he rode into a trap. I was staring off into the trees when I heard the faintest creak of leather, saddle leather. The kind of groan it makes when a rider shifts his weight, then a snort, soft, wet, animal, horse breath. There were no horses at Cowpens that night, no trailers in the lot, no farms close enough for the sound to carry that clear. But out in the dark, 10 yards off, something big moved, hooves thudded once, twice, 3 times, a heavy war horse doing a little nervous dance. I didn't see it, praise the Lord, just the outline of darker against dark, a shadow where no shadow should be, and above it, like a crease in a bad dream, the shape of a rider who'd come a very long way to die in a field he didn't understand. The air smelled like sweat and metal. Then it all blinked out. I'd had enough. I backed up until I could feel the packed gravel of the trail under my boots again. Kept my eyes on the field, but I reached instinctively for my keys, the way a man does when he's done being polite about a place. That's when I heard it. Not drums, not a bugle, just names. Soft, running together like a chaplain reading off a list too long for one breath. Some I recognized from the markers, officers, sergeants, men whose families kept their memory alive. But most were plain, one-syllable farm names, too many of them. It wasn't English the way we speak it now. It was older, clipped, with those rough little Carolina, Virginia edges, but the sorrow in it was fresh. My eyes stung. I told myself it was just a cold. It felt less like ghost haunting the field, more like the field refusing to forget who was laid down in it, whether their bodies ended up there or not. The list went on, then faded into the sound of wind starting back up. Pine branches whispered over my head. I realized my bike had never sounded so good as it did in my imagination right then. Walked back towards the parking lot without turning my back on the field for too long. Respect and nerves make strange partners. My bike sat alone under the trees, chrome catching the last of a dull sky. I thumbed the starter and the engine rolled over like a big friendly animal, glad to feel useful again. Headlight cut across the grass, just for a second, and I saw them. Not clear, not like people standing there, just impressions, shapes where the light didn't seem to land quite right. A line of men shoulder to shoulder across that field, thin as smoke, thick as a memory. Somewhere behind them, farther back in the dark, I could feel others. Cavalry waiting, militia circling, Morgan's plan still unfolding, over and over. Every time January comes around and a fool like me decides to hang around after closing, I eased out the clutch and rolled for the exit. As I turned onto the road, far in the distance, from the heart of the park, something echoed. Could have been a truck hitting a bump, might have been somebody's tailgate slamming. But it sounded a whole lot like a single musket fired in salute. I didn't look back. Here's what I'll tell you, since you're still listening. Cowpens was a turning point, a little pasture that helped swing a whole war. Men stood their ground when everything in them probably wanted to run. Other men charged into a trap because pride told them they couldn't lose. History books will give you dates, numbers, talk about double envelopments, tactical brilliance, and all that. But when you walk that field in the dark, you don't feel any strategy. You feel weight, choices, and fear. The kind of courage that doesn't look like a statue. It looks like a shivering boy trying not to drop his musket, knowing the next volley might be the last thing he ever does. Some of them went home, a lot didn't. So if you ever decide to walk Cowpens after the sun's gone down, don't go out there looking for cheap scares. Don't poke at the dark on purpose. Just stand quiet at the edge of that field. Listen for a soft shift of boots that aren't there, and the breath of horses long gone, and the faint sound of roll call that never quite ends. Then, nod, tip your hat, and head on home. The dead at Cowpens have done enough. They don't need us bringing them back into the fight. Nights like this, places like this, Hey, don't forget, out here at Cowpens, it ain't just dates on a marker or names on a plaque. It's boys who stood their ground when running should have been easier, and men who rode in a certain way that they couldn't lose and never rode back out. If you come walk this field, do it with some respect. Read the signs, say a quiet thanks, and when the wind shifts and the hair stands up on your arms, don't be so sure it's just weather. If you like Southern history, graveyards, true old-time ghost stories, stick around, hit subscribe, tap that like button, and come walk the next haunted piece of ground with me. This is the Grave Historian, reminding you the past ain't dead, it's just waiting for you to listen.